Yes, Garima. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Please start.
Ma'am,
So this is the first slide, and today Garima is going to present you about copper IUCD. Is it all right, Garima? Should we? So please start.
yes. Ma'am, is it from your side?
You can just narrate it. I will do the next slide for you.
Okay. Good morning, respected ma'am, all my dear colleagues, myself, Garima Gupta, and I am on behalf of Group 2. Full device that is inserted into uterus to prevent pregnancy. It is a safe, effective, and reversible method of contraception. It is a temporary and long-term method of contraception. As it is a temporary method, so it is commonly used to postpone or space for. It is made of polyethylene, polyethylene, or polymer. In addition, medicated for bioactive IUDs release either a metal ion or a hormones. Amongst many, either a copper-impregnated device like a copper T, multi-node, or a fertilizing device like levonorgestrel intrauterine system is commonly used. There has been significant improvement in its design and content. This idea is to obtain maximum efficacy without increasing the adverse effects. This device does not require placement for a long period of time and does not interfere with sexual activity. Now the types of IUCDs. The first generation IUCD are non-medicated or inert IUCD, for example, Libby's loop. The second generation IUCDs are copper-containing. Third generation IUCDs are non-releasing IUCDs. The failure rate of IUCDs is more in the first 12 months of the pregnancy. For copper T388, the failure rate is 0.8 per 100 women year in a typical use and 0.6 per 100 women year for a perfect use. And for LNG, that is levonorgestrel containing IUCD, it is 0.1 per 100 women year in a typical use and 0.1 in a per 100 women year in a perfect use. Now the mode of action. The biochemical and histological changes in endometrium. There occurs non-specific inflammatory reaction along with biochemical changes in the endometrium. So the inflammatory mediators pump and accumulate throughout the uterine movements and cervical canal and fallopian tube. So this affects the function and viability of gamete, thus prevent the fertilization, reduce the chance of zygote formation and implantation. This device also releases macrophages, which helps in phagocytosis of spermatozoa. The endometrial inflammatory response decreases the sperm transport and hence impedes the ability of sperm to fertilize the ovum. Copper devices, its function is to prevent blastocyst implantation through enzymatic interference. It releases cytokines which are cytotoxic. It impedes sperm transport and viability in cervical nerves and hence prevent the sperm to reach the tubes. Levonorgestrel containing IUCDs, it induces strong and uniform suppression of endometrium, makes the cervical mucus thick and scant, and hence aids the sperm motility. Now the time of insertion. The best time for insertion is within the interval of 2 to 3 days after the period is over. But it can be inserted any time during the cycle, provided she is not pregnant. It can be safely inserted at the time of menstruation, which has following advantages like open cervical canal, distended and cavity, and less cramps. It can be inserted just at bottom. The particular time is immediately following the termination of pregnancy, conception evacuation, or dilatation and evacuation, or following spontaneous abortion. Copper T388 can be used as an emergency contraception up to 5 days following unaffected process. We can also insert it immediately after postpartum. The best time can be post-placenta, that is within 10 minutes after the expulsion of placenta following vaginal delivery. Intracesarean insertion during cesarean delivery after removal of placenta and before closure of uterine incision. Within 48 hours after delivery, that is before the patient is discharged. and in extended postpartum period that is interval any time after the 6 weeks. Now the mode of insertion. So the preliminaries which can be done is history taking and general examination that includes both general and physical examination, which is done to exclude any contraindication for insertion. Then the patient is informed about various problems related to the IUCD, and the device is also shown to her, and consent is taken from the patient. The insertion is done in the OPD using aseptic precaution. There is no sedation or anesthesia is required in this procedure. And to reduce the cramping pain, ibuprofen 400 mg may be given 30 minutes before insertion. Now the placement of device inside the inserter. Ma'am, next slide. This is in the figure A. In figure A, there are two devices. One is the inserter, that is cylindrical, and the second one is the card, that is all loop light. So in the B, it is shown that the device, our poverty device, it's folded. The horizontal prongs and the vertical prongs are folded upon itself and inserted into the distal end of the inserter. The person in the B image is inserting the device inside the inserter. Ma'am, back. So the point says that placement of device inside the inserter, the device is taken out from the sealed packet by using the aseptic precautions, and the thread, the vertical stem and the horizontal stem are folded in the vertical stem are introduced through the distal end of the inserter. So the image B shows that in the distal end, the person is inserting the device inside it. No touch insertion method is preferred in the delivering of the device inside the uterus. Now the actual steps, the first step is the patient empties his bladder, and patient is placed in a lithotomy position. The uterine size and position are certain by pelvic examination. Now the posterior vaginal serum is introduced, and the vagina and cervix are cleansed by antiseptic lotion. The interior lip of cervix is grasped by the Ellis forceps, and the sound is passed through the uterine canal to the position of uterus and the uterine cavity. The appropriate length and of inserter is adjusted depending upon the length of uterine cavity. So the inserter which we are going to place inside the uterus should show the appropriate length which can be detected by passing by detecting the length of the uterine cavity. Now the point inserter with the device is placed inside is then introduced to cervical canal right up to the fundus. In figure C, it is showing that the inserter along with the device, it is placed inside the canal up to the fundus, and it is after positioning it by the guard, the inserter is withdrawn keeping the plunger in the position. So this guard helps to move the device inside the uterus so that the prongs, both the transverse or horizontal comes out of it, and then the inserter along with the guard is taken out from the uterus. Thus the device is not pushed out of the tube but held in place by the plunger while the inserter is withdrawn. Then the device contains the nylon wire which if it is in excess beyond 3 cm from the external loss, it is made cut. Then the Ellis forceps and the posterior vaginal spectrum are taken. Now the complications and contraindications. The immediate complications include cramp-like pain, syncopal attack, partial or complete perforation. The remote complications can be pelvic pain, abnormal menstrual bleeding, pelvic inflammatory disease, spontaneous expulsion or perforation of uterus. The contraindications in pregnancy, any abnormality of the uterus, history of ectopic pregnancy, history of pelvic inflammatory disease, endometriosis, undiagnosed genital bleeding, Wilson's disease and copper allergy in the case of copper IUCDs, and hepatocellular carcinoma or breast cancer in case of levonorgestrone-containing IUCDs. For indication for its removal, if there is a persistent or excessive regular uterine bleeding, there may be infection like meningitis, perforation of uterus, there is a partial expulsion, that is the IUCD comes out of the place. If pregnancy occurs, then the device is in situ. If woman is desirous of baby, if there is a missing thread, or when effective lifespan of the device is over. So the effective lifespan or the replacement time for the device is for multi-load 375, it is replaced after 5 years. Copper T388, it is replaced after 10 years. LNG IUS after 5 years. Copper T200 after 4 years.
Thank you, Garima. So, you have understood the topic now. So, let us shift to Garima Rai, and she will be detailing us on hormonal IUCD. Garima Rai, you will become the presenter now.
Hello.
Yes,
Good
Garima.
morning, ma'am.
Good morning. We'll just make you the presenter, and you can
Yes,
continue.
ma'am.
Yes. Next. So, Garima, you should continue
Yes,
with your hormonal IUCD. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My topic is hormonal IUCDs. Hormonal IUCDs, as compared to copper-containing IUCDs, are different because it contains hormones in them. So, accordingly, there can be two types. First is progesterone releasing, example progesterone, and second is levonorgestrel releasing, which includes LNG-IUS and Skyla. LNG-IUS is a T-shaped device with polymethyl siloxane membrane around the stem, which acts as a steroid reservoir. Total amount of levonorgestrel.
Rest of you, please. Just wait, Garima. Just wait, Garima.
Every 7 years, though approved for 5 years, efficacy is comparable.
Garima, just wait. Garima, just wait. Garima, just wait. Everyone else, please mute yourself. Please keep your mic off. Everyone else. There is a surrounding noise. I request everyone to keep your mics off. Thank you so much. Garima, continue. Garima, continue.
LNG-IUS is a T-shaped device with polydimethyl siloxane membrane around the stem, which acts as a steroid reservoir. Total amount of levonorgestrel is 52 milligram, and it is released at the rate of 20 milligram per day. It is replaced every 7 years, though approved for 5 years. Efficacy is comparable to sterilization operation. Second is Skyla, which is a newer device with 13.5 milligram per day LNG releasing property. It has a smaller body than Mirena and approved for 3 years. Next slide.
Yes. Is it all right?
As Garima already told, the mode of action of LNG, it induces strong and uniform separation of endometrium, causes cervical mucus to become thick and scantly, which impairs sperm motility and access to upper genital tract. Anovulation and insufficient luteal phase activity has also been mentioned. It causes decreased tubal motility. However, the serum progesterone level does not increase. Insertion technique, the initial steps, which are preliminary steps, are similar to insertion of copper T. With maintaining hygienic condition, this is inserted using an insertion device. First of all, uterine cervical length is measured by ultrasonography. Flange on the inserter is positioned from IUCD according to the uterine cervical length. Inserted tube is gently inserted into the uterus until flange is 1.5 to 2 centimeters from external cause. Arms of device is released by pulling the slider back to the raised white line on the handle. Wait in this position for at least 20 to 30 seconds to allow the arm to open fully. Insert is guided gently into the uterine cavity until its flange touches the cervix. The device is released by holding the inserter firmly in position and pulling the slider back all the way. Threads are released automatically, inserted is removed, and threads are trimmed, preserving 3 cm outside the cervix. Advantages of hormonal IUDs over copper devices are it is highly efficacious of contraception, and these IUDs have non-contraceptive benefits too. It causes significant increase in menstrual blood loss, menorrhagia, dysmenorrhea, PMS, use and treatment of endometrial hyperplasia in adenomyosis, endometriosis, and uterine melanoma. It reduces risk of endometrium and cervical carcinoma. It has fertility sparing treatment in early stage of endometrial carcinoma, safe and effective as alternate to sterilization operation, higher use of restriction, alternative to hysterectomy and menorrhagia and DVB, benefits in HRT, hormonal replacement therapy. The disadvantages of the hormonal IUDs as compared to copper is it is expensive for copper T, which is distributed free of cost by government and not available through government channel in India. New device is under trial is Skyla, which is an LNG device, copper T200 IUD, Gyne T380 as a postpartum insertion device. Gynefix is also one of the newer IUD, which is a frameless IUD made of 6 copper beads. Thank you.
Thank you, Garima. Thank you, Garima. So it was presented by the group by 2 speakers about copper IUCD and the hormonal IUCD. So now we shift to question and answer. Okay, Garima? Thank you. First slide. बाकी लोग को वो वैसे ही चलने दो ना, मतलब म्यूट अनम्यूट वाला. So good morning everyone. Am I audible? Share को देखो. Okay. So this I have used the term LARC. Where is the chat section here? इसको चैट एक साइड में दिखा देना. ओके, इसको फिर छोटा करो. ये कैसे पढ़ेंगे? तरफ को कैसे पढ़ेंगे? So my first question to you all is, what is LARC? Please unmute yourself and tell or write on a chat. We are discussing this chat. चैट सेक्शन तो देखना है मुझे. हाँ, लॉन्ग एक्टिंग रिवर्सिबल कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव इन द नील. ओके, सो यू ऑल नो दैट द 2 words are important, that it is a long acting and then it is a reversible one. So long acting because what we discussed in the last 2 sessions were oral contraceptive, emergency contraceptive and male contraception. So male contraception was long acting but it was not reversible. And the rest of the methods like emergency contraception and oral contraception are not to be given for 5 or 10 years. So the importance of IUCD is that it is long acting and reversible method of contraception. Now if we don't halt the population, it grows. We are not doing justice to it. इसको मैं कुछ साइड में कर दूँ. Now why are we discussing contraception in such a detail? Thank you. So if we don't halt the population growth with justice and compassion, it will be done for us by the nature brutally and without pity. That is one of the saying by the Nobel laureate. And that is what we are seeing if we don't respect nature, what nature is doing with the corona. So that is what we want to do it with contraception. So this is reversible and long acting, does not require replacement for long time. And we made a group of that, and the group 2 was presenting it today by intrauterine contraceptive devices. And we would be discussing subsequently in question answer sections these topics. So when we discuss unintended and intended pregnancies, it is seen that the 51% of the pregnancies are is it visible to all? This part is visible to all. So unintended and intended, we see that the unintended pregnancies, this is makes about 1/4 of it, and 1/4 of it they go for elective abortions. So these are the pregnancies which lead to complications, and that is why we are discussing all these methods. So my first question is name the first IUCD which was introduced in the National Family Planning Program. Name few other older IUCDs. So can anyone unmute and tell me? Or you can write on the chat box is visible to me. Name the first IUCD which was used to be introduced in the National Family Planning Program in India. And there are few 4 or 5 older ones. मेरे को चैट इसमें दिखा दो नहीं. Anyone?
Lipisleup was the first IUD.
Correct, Mahima.
Lipisleup was the first.
Yes, Lipisleup was the first, and few other.
Copper T.
No, copper T is not the older obsolete one. Copper T is still being used. Name few older obsolete ones. Multilode 375. Why, Shreya? I asked you few other older obsolete ones.
Jack, please.
Correct. Lippies is one, that was first. Then few others, 2 or 3 others. Ota ring, Mahua ring. Yes. Kaikasha, that is right. Any other you remember? Kindly unmute and tell. So Lipisleup was the first one, which was the non-medicated IUCD, which was that it had no lifespan. It had no lifespan of 3 years, 6 years or 10 years, and it was an inert device, and the mode of action was basically only mechanical, that it hinders with the implantation, and so once inserted it never had to be replaced. It was a double S-shaped device, so this was a double S-shaped, this was one S and this was other, and it was available in various sizes of A, B, C, D. And the deposition of calcium was the only hindrance, because there used to be deposition of salts on it, so that on this inert device, and therefore that became irritating to the endometrium and had to be removed. But nowadays it is obsolete and it is not used. The other ones are Greffenberg ring, which was the second to come in the line, and then there was Ota ring, Safety coil, and Mahana ring. Okay. So this is the history as it goes, that in 1909 it was the Richard Richer of Poland who claimed that he used a suture material which was made up of silkworm gut and inserted into the uterus. It did not accept this method for another 50 years because of the infection part. Then in 1920 and 1930s, it was the Greffenberg which modified a ring, and it was made up of coil or metal wire. But at the time of Nazis, it was also became obsolete. Then in 1934 it was Ota, Dr. Ota from Japan, who made a device which was called as Ota ring, and then this also became obsolete as the World War II came. In 1949 it was Herbert Hall who developed the stainless steel ring, and then there were others like Dalton Shield or Safety Coil or Mahana ring, and in 1962 it was the Lippes of New York who made this Lippes loop, and this was the first to be used as an intrauterine contraceptive device, something which hinders with the uterine implantation. Then came the Margulis coil, and in 1970 these medicated devices came into action. They were called as bioactive devices. It was Zipper who had come up with the idea that copper can be put into it. And another scientist called Tatum was the one who developed the T-shaped, the alphabet T used, and therefore for some time this copper T was called as Tatum T, and later then it was called as copper T, and copper 7 became popular. And as these became popular, later they decided that more of the copper apart from 200 could be added into it in the newer devices. So this is how the history goes. These are as discussed in the first few lectures by Garima, that these are the first generation inert devices. They do not have any bioactive elements. This is how the Dalton Shield looks like. This is how the Safety Coil used to look like, and this is how the Grafenberg ring used to look like. And they were also classified as closed and open methods. Closed means that the two ends meet, and therefore if they were by any chance going into the abdominal cavity, the part of omentum or part of the intestine may get obstructed into this, and therefore the closed devices were obsolete. And these being open also had the problem of being misplaced. So this is how these are misplaced. See that the Lippes loop has gone inside, perforated the uterus, and it is somewhere embedded in the abdominal cavity, and this is how the picture on hysteroscopy, laparoscopy is seen. This is the sonography picture of the Lippes loop, how it has gone inside the peritoneal cavity, and this is where this is like a broken Lippes loop. So after many years, this is what was the picture when they removed it. So this was later found out that these loops are though being used, but they are not very effective, and then they came with the copper devices. So when said that the second generation IUCDs have copper, and you say name them that copper T200, copper T220 or 250 or 375 or 380, what do you mean by this number? Anyone? Unmute yourself or write on the chat.
Surface area.
Surface area. Okay. So what is the surface area? Surface area of?
Surface area of copper wire.
Surface area of copper wire, not the surface area of the plastic tube, plastic T. So it is the surface area of the copper wire which is being used. So this is the copper wire with the surface area. So this is the how many times the copper wire is wound rounded. So this part, surface area, this much millimeter of copper is used. So in copper T200, this is the copper wire, metallic copper wire which is used, while when you start increasing, so this is the double it is wound, so it becomes a copper T375, and this is where it becomes the horizontal arms have also used copper, the sleeves have been used, so the copper wire is subsequently increased by more amount of surface area, and then first on the horizontal stem and then on the vertical stem. Question 3 goes like this, that incidence rate of pregnancy following an IUCD use, number 1. Can anyone tell me? Can she continue her pregnancy if it occurs pregnancy with IUCD in situ? Incidence of ectopic pregnancy with IUCD use, and incidence of congenital anomalies to fetus with copper IUCD in situ if she continues. Anyone?
Incidence of using copper T, if typically used, it is 0.8, and if perfectly used, it is 0.6, and hormonal LNGIUS.
No, we are talking of copper IUCD now. So it is 1 to It is less than 1 according to you. Okay. What about if she gets pregnant with the IUCD in situ? What would be your advice to her? Archie, she can use during pregnancy if she is willing to terminate. If she is willing to terminate, we terminate her. Okay, Archie. But what if she wants to continue? Should you allow her? And what are the chances of ectopic? And what are the chances of congenital anomaly?
Ma'am,
Yes.
If the thread is visible, if the thread is visible,
Yes.
we can remove the IUCD, but if the thread is not visible, we will continue.
Okay. If thread is not visible, maybe it is pulled up. So still she can continue?
Yes, ma'am. We can continue. Yes, ma'am.
She can continue. Any complications expected?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What are the complications?
There are more chances of abortion.
Abortion is one. Abortion is one. Either you terminate or she aborts spontaneously is one part. But if she is continuing the pregnancy, are there any complications expected?
Ma'am, this will result in increase in infection. Ma'am, this will result in increase in infection, which will lead to
Correct.
preterm labor.
Correct. Preterm labor and infection. That is what I wanted to hear. So pregnancy occurs with IUCD in situ. Do an ultrasound and rule out ectopic. Because why you want to rule out ectopic? Because this IUCD does not protect against tubular ovarian pregnancy, and if the pregnancy occurs, it does not increase the incidence of ectopic, but since there is something inside the uterus, if the pregnancy is occurring, it is likely to be ectopic. So you have to rule out ectopic pregnancy. Now as it was rightly said, if the thread is seen, you have to remove it because there is a chance of infection. But she may go in 50% of cases, she may go into spontaneous abortion. If she wants termination, you terminate her, terminate the baby. But if she wants to continue, even after removal, you have to see, and there is no congenital anomaly as such because of the copper or copper T, but the risk of preterm labor is increased fourfold, and if it is not removed, then the risk of infection is also increased, and the chance of preterm labor is increased because that preterm labor is because of the infection. So this is the this is the status. Now IUCD is commonly used which are made up of polyethylene which are impregnated with barium sulfate. Why we impregnate with the barium sulfate? Barium sulfate is?
ma'am, to make it radio opaque.
Yes.
Ma'am, to make it radio opaque.
Yes, so already the copper is also seen, but to make it radio opaque, and how would it help?
It can be visible in X-rays. Ma'am, it can be visible in X-rays.
X-ray. So why do you want to do an X-ray?
Even in USG MRI. Ma'am, even in USG MRI also it can be visible, so that we can detect where actually the
Actually, then you have to detect it, the site. This is only to detect. That is, it is to make it radio opaque, so that if there is a missing thread or you are not able to locate it, and you just wanted to do a USG, do an X-ray or do an MRI, and then because of the barium sulfate you want to detect it. So to render it radio opaque, so that the presence or absence of the device in the pelvis can be seen or detected by radiograph or by ultrasound or by MRI. Correct. What is the lifespan of copper 380A? And what is the other name for copper 380A, and what is current approval or recommendation for this copper 380A?
Ma'am, other name for 380A is other name for 380A is 10 years.
10 years, correct, that is right.
Paragard.
Other name for it?
Ma'am, Paragard.
Paragard is correct. Indrani has also written on chat. Okay. This currently approved for?
It is approved for 7 years. Ma'am, it is approved for 7 years. Approved for 5 years, but can release copper up to 7 years.
No, it releases copper up to 10 years. That is not that is what the LNG you are telling. This is a copper 380A which is approved for 10 years. It gives it, what is the indication for its insertion? That is what I am asking. Currently approved
It can be also used as a emergency contraceptive.
That is one, but not for 10 years. We are asking currently, which is most important. emergency contraception so she has just missed, and maybe she will remove it after 6 months or 1 year. You can insert it emergency, that is right. And if she wants to continue for 10 years, by current recommendation is for PPIUCD. So the postpartum intrauterine contraceptive device currently approved in India is copper 380A, which is for 10 years, and it is in US it is called Asparagard. Here we call it copper 380A, and PPIUCD is one which is approved. Although this lady also can remove it after 2 years, that is not but she can use it as an emergency or with PPIUCD for 10 years. Any other metal can be added to Novati along with copper, and if there is any advantage of adding such a metal. Along with copper, in copper devices, do you wish to add any other metal, bioactive metal? We are not talking of hormonal, we are talking of only the metal devices. And if you are adding some metal, do you guarantee some advantage by adding?
We can add silver.
Correct. We can add silver.
Increase the lifespan.
It increases the lifespan. Okay. So copper T380 AG it is called. That one that for 10 years we call it copper T380A. Now when you add silver to it, then you write it as copper T380 AG. And other metals which can be added as zinc can be added. Some of the Chinese have used indomethacin as an antibiotic to decrease the infection along with it. But Novati, which the question was, is the silver added to it and added to this copper wire. And the silver wires reduces the chance of fragmentation of the wire and increases the lifespan. Correct. So what is PPIUCD? Garima has already told you that the timing of insertion is also postpartum. So what is PPIUCD? What is the preferred IUCD? You discussed that copper T380A. Then when can it be inserted after delivery, and can we use hormonal for these? These are ABCD questions. So anyone? What is PPIUCD?
Postpartum IUCD.
Postpartum insertion of an intrauterine contraceptive device. Now what is the preferred device? 380A. Okay. Then when can it be inserted after delivery? The patient has delivered after 48 hours and after 48 or within 48. The two has a different meaning. I want to know when it can be inserted after delivery.
Within 10 minutes. Delivery within 10 minutes.
Correct.
If intracesarean, if intracesarean, then after removal of placenta, before closure of uterine incision.
Correct.
And in 48 hours of the delivery.
Okay. And what about?
The hospital.
Correct. Before she is discharged from the hospital. So this is what. And can you use LNG IUS for that? Or you will only use copper 380A? LNG IUS is not approved for that because it is hormone and she is already in the postpartum period. So no hormonal devices are approved for postpartum IUCD. Okay. So postpartum IUCD is the answer, and copper 380A for 10 years is the approved IUCD. It is for immediate postpartum, and it should not be inserted from 48 hours to 6 weeks following delivery because there is an increased risk of infection and expulsion. So it is rightly said that it has to be inserted within 48 hours of birth, and hormonal IUCDs are not to be used. So you counsel the mother for postpartum IUCD in the immediate postpartum. She did not agree to your advice, and now she comes for a stitch removal after cesarean section, say 7 days, and now she wants that PP IUCD to be inserted. As a doctor, is it a guideline? What would be your advice to her?
She should not be inserted.
Ma'am, she should not be inserted.
Correct.
Within 7 days. If she asks for insertion, then we will ask her for an extended postpartum period or interval anytime after 6 weeks.
Very right. So this is the correct answer, that inserted immediately after delivery of the placenta, that is 10 minutes, then up to 48 hours after birth, before she is discharged from the facility, medical facility. It is a good choice of contraception, whether she is breastfeeding or she is not breastfeeding, and relatively inexpensive and convenient and very low rate of complications. But when she comes for a stitch removal on 7th day, it is not advisable at all, because she has not agreed to the first 48 hours. Now you will ask her to wait till 6 weeks, and then after 6 weeks you will ask her to get a contraceptive IUCD done. She should come after 6 weeks. That is what in the chat also I am seeing Archie is writing. Okay. So this is the chart. It should be ideal postpartum insertion is after delivery of the placenta within 10 minutes, be it vaginal delivery or be it cesarean, it is within the 10 minutes. And then if you do it till the next 48 hours, it is still safe before you discharge her from the hospital. But from 48 hours to 6 weeks it is now. So the timeline says that about 6 weeks it is increased risk of expulsion and perforation. It is not, and then after 6 weeks it is again safe. So this is post-placental within 10 minutes of delivery, that is immediately after delivery of the placenta. Then trans-cesarean, as was rightly mentioned, during after delivery of the placenta but before closure of the incision. Then postpartum before the discharge, that is 48 hours. Post-perpural, that is after 6 to 8 weeks. And after abortion and ectopic, she can have a immediate insertion, as was also discussed. It is readily accessible. It has no effect on the amount and quality of the breast milk. It is safe to use for HIV positive women. It is reversible, can be removed anytime, do not require any daily action as a part of the user, and does not require separate visit to the facility if it is done before 48 hours or 10 minutes. So postpartum family planning now, what are the conditions where you will say that I will not insert a PPIUCD? You would avoid such PPIUCD in what conditions? Any 2 or 3 conditions where you will not advise PPIUCD in the 10 minutes or 48 hours? Anyone?
Ma'am, when there is puerperal sepsis.
Ma'am, when there is puerperal sepsis.
Okay. That is one. Pelvic inflammatory disease. Okay. PID. Okay. Archie is selling pelvic inflammatory disease. Indrani Ghosh is selling PID. Okay. Fibroids. Genital tract bleeding is second. Correct. So she has a PPH. When she has a postpartum hemorrhage, you would not advise. Previous history of postpartum hemorrhage. No, previous history of postpartum hemorrhage, you can check it now. This delivery we are talking about Shreya Pandey. We not previous history of postpartum hemorrhage. About this pregnancy, if she is having Wilson's disease, Manisha, Wilson's disease is already known. It is a very rare complication, but still, if you are saying postpartum, that is already accepted. You will not counsel her in Wilson's disease. But she has already delivered post-abortal endometriosis. Post-abortal endometriosis. No, I am asking about PPIUCD, not post-abortal. Postpartum I am asking. Deepa, I am asking not post-abortal. I am asking postpartum. Wilson's disease is one, but Wilson's disease is known in the pregnancy period also. We are not discussing general, we are discussing only postpartum. 3 indications. One, she has told postpartum hemorrhage. Second, she told me postpartum sepsis. That is agreed. Okay, and chorioamnionitis. So, if the woman has postpartum hemorrhage and if she had sepsis, that two have been discussed. If the woman had a ruptured membrane for more than 24 or 18 hours or longer, you expect a chorioamnionitis in such patients. That is, the chorion and amnion may have infection, and therefore you would avoid inserting a postpartum in first 10 minutes or 48 hours of delivery. Now, what is the insertion technique of PPIUCD is the same as what we have been explained by Garima as a method of a copper T insertion, because we are not discussing LNG IUS, so it is the only copper T insertion. So, insertion technique is the same. Is it same? What do you do with the 2 threads with it? Anyone? No, it is not audible. Yes. Anyone? Just unmute yourself and say what is the insertion technique of PPIUCD. Easy removal. Easy removal. I am not asking of removal. Indrani Ghosh. No, I am not asking removal. I am asking a technique of PPIUCD, and what do you do with the two threads? They told us that you have to cut if they are 3 to 4 centimeters beyond cervical external os. You cut them off. You trim them off. Okay, so insertion technique of PPIUCD is a little different, because when the patient delivers either by vaginal delivery or by cesarean, the uterus is quite big. It you have learned in the involution that it reaches up to the level of umbilicus just after the delivery. So it is not the normal size uterus which it is there, and so the fundus is quite high up to the level of umbilicus, and therefore the usual technique of that inserter and that push technique or pull technique or whatever is not very helpful in this, because the uterus is quite large. So there are two techniques. One is that you hold that IUCD like this. The IUCD strings are placed like this in the palm of the hand, and then you just insert your hand inside the uterus up to the level of the fundus, which goes right up to the top of the fundus, maybe up to the level of umbilicus when you palpate it from above, and then you just place it there. The another method is that you take a ring forceps or sponge holding forceps, you catch it like this, and you take it inside the this. Deepa Kumari is writing me trimmed preserving 3 centimeter length. No, it is wrong. Archie Jaiswal is writing me cut 2 to 3 centimeter. No, whatever the thread length is there, you just leave it as such. You don't trim it in post-placental IUCD or postpartum IUCD, because the uterus is quite large and the thread doesn't come up to the cervix. So you just leave it there. There is nothing like trimming the cut threads there. So name the generations of IUCD. It has already been told to me by the first slide, but just narrate the generations of IUCD. First generation.
Ma'am, non-medicated, like Lippis loop. Ma'am, non-medicated.
Correct.
Second generation is
correct. Second generation.
Second generation is copper-containing device.
Third
like
generation.
copper T200, copper 380.
Yes.
Copper T380, multi-load 375, multi-load.
Third generation.
And third generation is progesterone-containing, like Progestat and LNG-UIS.
Fourth generation.
LNG. Yes, ma'am.
Fourth generation.
Fourth generation are frameless IUCDs.
Fourth generation are
Frameless IUCDs, correct. So as frameless, as you have in pills, that is a monophasic, then biphasic, then triphasic, then quadriphasic. Similarly, you have generations here also, and then the first generation is Lippis loop only, which doesn't have any metal or bioactive, so it is inert. The second generation is copper, as rightly said, it contains metal. The third is hormone, and in the third also the higher copper containing devices have also been put into third generation, but as of now it is progesterone and levonorgestrel. And fourth generation are those in which this frame has been removed. So in this case the medication has been removed, but in this case it is the frame has been removed, and now they become frameless. And there are two types. One is Gynifix, where the frame has been removed and you are using copper, and another is the Fibroplant, where the frame has been removed and you are using levonorgestrel. So these two with the frame and these two without frame, but they are frameless IUCDs. So what is medical eligibility criteria? And a contraceptive method was given by WHO. And what is it? What does it say? You must have downloaded that wheel of this medical eligibility criteria. What is it? What is the importance of MEC? Anyone? If you have not downloaded, please download this app, which is available on Android and Apple. It is available from 2015 onwards. It is the MEC wheel, and once you download that app and then you move that wheel, you can see the eligibility criteria, and it shows that that this criteria which we discussed has MEC has 4 criteria. In category 1, which are called as green criteria, are those which are safe to use. In category 2, which is called as a yellow criteria, is that where there are advantages outweigh the risk and they are generally in use. Category 3 again comes in the little risky criteria, so it becomes an orange criteria, and that there are more proven risk where they outweigh the advantages of this method. And this is category 4, that is in red zone, that is they are not to be used. This we already discussed in the last lecture. But by these criteria, again I am revising, and I want to know what is the MEC for PPIUCD. So this is the answer to it, that whether contraceptive method worsens the medical condition or whether the medical condition is made worse because of the contraceptive is the criteria which is used, and this is the 2000 wheel which has been launched and it is available on the app. So what is the MEC for PPIUCD? Now you know what is category 1, category 2, category 3 and 4. So what would be the eligibility criteria for category 1? You have already mentioned it, just the question framing is different. What is it? In what people you come under green category, that is category 1 for PPIUCD? So category 1 is immediate post-placental, that is within 10 minutes, and immediate postpartum, that is 6 weeks postpartum. That is what? Up to 48 hours, and after 6 weeks are the category 1. Category 2, they have not mentioned any condition, but category 3 is that the patient comes you between 48 hours and 6 weeks, you tell her all the risk and you tell that there was a chorioamnionitis, you tell her that there was a ruptured membrane of more than 18 to 24 hours, and therefore if I put your copper-T, it would be coming under category 3, or it is a high risk criteria, and category 4 is postpartum hemorrhage and puerperal sepsis, as was rightly said. So that is, in these cases it is totally not recommended to use. What is the patient selection criteria for an ideal copper IUCD? In whom would you put?
Ma'am, female who has at least one child. Ma'am, female who has at least one child.
At least one child, okay. That is right.
And female who is in monogamous relationship.
Correct.
Not having.
Why do you want a monogamous relationship?
Ma'am, because to prevent STD.
Yes, sexually transmitted diseases, the copper-T doesn't prevent that.
Ma'am, if she is having a history of pelvic inflammatory disease, then we can.
Okay, history of PID, yes. So this is a criteria, multiparous woman. So you don't ask a IUCD in a nullipara. And monogamous, she has told me, so there is a low risk of sexually transmitted disease, and of course she is desirous of a long-term reversible contraception and not prepared for a permanent method of sterilization. So what is MEC of PPIUCD? We have discussed. Now how do you diagnose chorioamnionitis? What is the patient symptoms in chorioamnionitis? There is a chorion and there is an amnion layers, and the membranes have been ruptured for more than 24 hours. So it is likely that the infection may have ascended into the uterine cavity. So what would be the symptoms of any infection in a female? Fever, right. So that is one chat I got, fever. That of course fever would be there. So any other thing? So amnionitis is an intraamniotic infection of fetal membranes and amniotic liquor prior to labor, and temperature, abdominal pain, plus the tender uterus with the foul smelling amniotic fluid and fetal tachycardia of more than 160 beats per minute. These are the features of chorioamnionitis diagnosis, and in these conditions where there is a tender uterus, there is foul smelling amniotic fluid, when you have faced a fetal distress and the patient maternal fever, then in these cases you don't put a PPIUCD. Now you're doing a workup of this. You have already taken a history of PID, STD, sexual history, any history of ectopic pregnancy. You have examined configuration of the uterus is known to you. The cervical cultures have been sent. The pap smear has been taken. Now you have done the counseling, and you know, and now you are. This is just an information that it is that IUCDs affect the implantation part, and it is not an abortifacients. Okay. So what is the insertion technique which is normally followed in interval IUCD? Yes, I got Garima has written preterm labor, Archie has written pain, uterine tenderness, Kajal has written, yes, so we have covered that. Now what is the push-in technique and what is the withdrawal technique of insertion of copper IUCDs, or in fact any IUCDs? And what is the technique which you normally, she has told you the technique which is being used. So what is the technique which is being used? What is push-in and what is withdrawal? You narrated me the technique, Garima. So what is the push-in technique and what is the withdrawal technique? What did you follow out of the two? Anyone? Of the group 2, anyone of other groups, if you have read the chapter of IUCD? Do you practice push-in technique nowadays? You don't use push-in technique nowadays. Okay, why don't you use push-in technique nowadays? Because if you push it hard, it may perforate the uterus. So what you use is the withdrawal technique. Okay, so what she has narrated it you in the technique part is the withdrawal. She has told you that there are 2 tubes, and out of the 2 tubes she has withdrawn that tube, the lower tube she has withdrawn it. So that is a withdrawal. Okay, so push technique was only used in Lippi's IUCD, and what was that? It was inserted into it, and thus this by a plunger you used to push that IUCD into the cervical canal, and that was the push-in. The plunger was pressed inside the uterine cavity, and that way it could have perforated any of the walls of the uterine cavity. So push-in technique is not used nowadays. What we currently use in any methods, either a copper IUCD or a hormonal IUCD, is the withdrawal method. Well, there is a less chance of uterine perforation. The rod containing the IUCD, as she has depicted in the diagram, is inserted up to the fundus, and then the outer rod which was slowly withdrawn, followed by the inner rod, and therefore the copper T uncoils it into the cavity, be it copper, be it that is, she has folded that copper T inside it, and then after that she has not pushed in, she has just touched the fundus and then withdrawn the rest of the things. Once withdrawn, the T arms had opened it. So that is called as withdrawal technique, and then you don't push it into the uterus. So let me see whether this will open or not. I think it would not open. Okay, I'll show you at the end. This is not opening. I'll show you at the end. So what is the birth to pregnancy interval and what is the birth to birth interval called? What should be the ideal interval? What do you mean by the term birth to pregnancy interval? And what do you mean by the term birth to birth interval? Anyone? Please participate. You will just get a habit of Viva Voce or table Viva. Anyone, what do you mean? Just a general knowledge question. What is the birth to pregnancy interval? Anyone? Make a guess. There is no negative marking. Yes, what is birth to birth interval? Three years. Good. Smita has written 2 years. Garima has written 3 years. So 3 years birth to birth interval is ideal. Between 2 successive live births, not successive live births. It is not important, Asim, it is not important that it is live birth. What I mean by birth to pregnancy is that when she has given a birth to on a particular day, and till the time she gets her pregnancy in the first, that is when she starts her pregnancy, that is the birth to pregnancy interval. the next pregnancy. And birth to one, she has given a birth to one, between live birth to one, and she starts her next pregnancy is birth to pregnancy, and then when she gives birth and then next live birth, that is a birth to birth interval, and the healthy birth interval should be 36 months or 3 years. And if she is that is the ideal, you would ask her to wait after one live birth, and that is the ideal time you would ask her to take a contraceptive method. If it has been an induced abortion or miscarriage, you will ask her to wait for 6 months. And adolescent, if that is an age group of less than 18 years, you ask them to wait till the age of 18 years to start their pregnancy. So what is important is birth to birth intervals. At times she may be unfortunate to have a stillborn, but still you will ask her to live birth interval is 3 years. That is correct. Now, what is misplaced IUCD and what is the importance of missed threads? She has already told you, just have to repeat it. So what is misplaced IUCD? Give 4 or 5 conditions where you cannot find the threads. You are doing a per speculum examination, you ask her to come again, and now you see that there are no 2 threads which you have left behind 3 to 4 centimeters at the level of externals. What could be the possibilities?
Ma'am, thread can be coiled inside.
That is one coil inside. So you just have to bring it out. It can be torn. Okay. Yes. I am getting surrounding noises. Someone is talking. I just want answers, not the surrounding noises. Okay. IUCD is expelled. Yes. Pregnancy has enlarged it. Yes. Perforation of uterus. Yes. So that is very right. Yes, I have received many chats in this. Dislodged pelvic perforated uterus. So the thread is coiled inside, as was rightly said. Then thread was torn through. Then the device was expelled outside. That is unnoticed by the patient. Then it has gone inside. That is perforated the uterine wall, and she has already become pregnant. So it has been pulled up. So these are some of the possibilities of missed threads. So how would you identify these threads? And what do you do when they are missed threads? What do you do? Yes? Sonography. Yes, someone is writing. Okay, TVS sonography. Okay. Sonography would be better. Hysteroscopy. Yes, it is a method. Hysteroscopy. Yes, you can correct it. Sounding is one. Okay, Smita is writing. Hysteroscopy. Yes. X-ray and sonography is the first non-invasive technique which you will do, and you can if it is just coiled enough or it has been expelled out, in those cases you need not do a hysteroscopy. But if it has gone inside, then you would definitely want a hysteroscopy to be done. So ultrasonography, hysteroscopy and straight X-ray abdomen are the choices. Ultrasonography is the first method of choice. You can detect whether it is uterine cavity or it is in the peritoneal cavity. A straight X-ray would also guide you using an uterine sound. The uterine sound is just to give you a guide that where the uterine fundus reaches, and thus you can see the distance between the uterine fundus and the copperty. If it is it is more than what the thickness of the uterine wall. And hysteroscopy of course has an advantage that within you can just resolve or remove it simultaneously also. What is the expulsion rate and what is the chance of perforation? In how many cases the uterus is the copperty is expelled?
5%.
No, not 10%. 5%. Okay. And then what is the chance of being perforating the uterine wall and going inside the abdominal cavity?
1,000 insertions.
Yes, very less. But the expulsion and perforation are more with the postpartum IUCDs, because the uterus is soft and the uterus is large. So these type of complications of perforation and expulsion are more in the immediate postpartum period. Who should not use IUCDs? that have been already covered, I think. So active and concurrent tubal infections or pelvic tuberculosis, unexplained abnormal vaginal bleeding, a woman with abnormal anatomy of the uterus like fibroids, and someone had told me Wilson's disease and some things because of the copper, so pregnancy is one. Then abnormalities of the uterus, in such type of uterus with the fibroids, you would of course not put an IUCD. With a PID or salpingitis, you would avoid because there is already an infection. If there is an endometritis or uterine, then you would not be putting it. And then there is an undiagnosed genital tract bleeding, then also you will not be putting it. And if bacterial vaginosis or infection, then you avoid. In all types of sexually transmitted disease, when there is a history of ectopic pregnancy, when she is undergoing some type of where her immune status is low, because if she is a copper allergy or if she has Wilson's disease, in cases of LNG IUS, you would not use it in liver tumors and in breast cancers. So in what condition you will remove IUCDs, indication for removal, that was also discussed. So just narrate me where you want to remove it.
Regular
Okay.
uterus
Okay.
uterus perforation,
Yes.
pregnancy,
Expulsion.
Expulsion is of course pregnancy. So persistent irregular uterine bleeding is the one. In spite of IUCD, and she has started bleeding, and irregular uterine bleeding is the most common symptoms with patient. I would ask the others who are not answering to come at least mute it. I am getting surrounding noises. Flaring up of salpingitis, perforation of uterus. Should I stop the class? People are not listening to me. I am listening so many sounds. Just mute yourself. You would be able to hear. You can leave the class if you are not interested. But just don't keep your mic on and just disturb others. I'm still hearing noises. Can you keep your mics off and keep on only when you want to answer? Perforation of uterus, partial expulsion, IUCD not in place, missing thread, patient desirous of pregnancy. People are not listening to me. I'm listening music to it, and then I'm trying to explain to you something. Now the patient comes to you. The patient is worried about her return to fertility after delivery and abortion. What will be your advice to her? What would be your advice to her? Anyone? When would her fertility return? It is mostly within 4 to 6 weeks after delivery that the fertility returns in most of the cases. Hormone releasing devices, progestasert, progesterone release, levonorgestrel release. So this you already know that she has detailed it. I'm getting a lot of noises. People want to listen only the song and not the lecture, I think. What should be done? Doorbell is ringing. People are interested in that. They have kept their mic open. So this is the some of the pictures of LNG IUS, and this shows you what is the size, and this shows you what is the size of LNG IUS. This is how the inserter is used, and this is the mechanism, this is the benefit. Can all of you mute your mic? Fourth generation IUCD, can anyone detail it to me? Anyone?
Ma'am, fourth generation IUCD consists of Gynifix. Fourth generation IUCD consists of Gynifix 30 and Fibroplant.
Gynifix what?
And
Gynifix what?
Gynifix 30.
30 or 330?
330.
It is 330. It is 330. Okay.
330.
Yes. Multi-load 375 is not a frameless.
Ma'am, multi-load 375.
Multi-load 375, someone is writing, it is. Yes, so these are devices where there are fixed, frameless and flexible, are responsible for low expulsion, high effectiveness and high continuation rate. And these are the devices which is Gynifix 330, and it has a one knot in the upper end, and this knot goes into the about 1 centimeter inside. Just put the mute button and then on the left hand corner. Just put it on the left hand corner, there is a mute unmute button. The frameless IUCD dispenses the frame and knot holds the device, and this is 1 centimeter goes inside the myometrium, and this is the knot. This is the knot, and rest of the sleeves contain 6 copper sleeves, but of course it requires skill, and of course it requires a technique, but once inserted it is very good. So this is 3 to 4 centimeter long. It is not multi-load as Indrani Ghosh has told. Multi-load has a frame and it is not a frameless device. Gynifix 330 is right. So don't confuse, it has been twice or thrice we are repeating the same thing, and we are spending so much time on contraception because this is a must know which every undergraduate should know, and I tell you that this would not be repeated till your final year exams. I am spending hours and hours on contraception, and this is not to repeat it till you get a final year exam paper. So please be careful in whatever you are writing or whatever you are telling, because we are taking one class each, that is 6 classes of contraception, which is quite enough time for contraception. So 6 copper sleeves, 330 millimeters of copper, and the copper beads on monofilament and this type of thread which is knotted at one end and then is fixed to the fundus, which is 1 centimeter deep. Noted, this needle works like a miniature harpoon. So this is the method, this has been shown, this is how it is inserted. It goes 1 centimeter deep inside the uterine fundus, and this is its inserter. Of course it requires a little skill. The second is Fibroplant, which is levonorgestrel intrauterine system, releasing 14 microgram of levonorgestrel per day, and this is released for 3 years. So this is the way the Gynifix is this, and that this is the new LNG device which has the folded ends, so that it will not damage the uterine cavity. So instead of T, the ends are folded. So this is the T-shaped LNG, which is the newer device which is coming. So what is Assure device? Anyone? What is Assure? Assure is device is placed intramural. This is the device which is it is given in your Datta book. You can find out these diagrams in your book, and these are the 2 devices which are put in the fallopian tubes. So these are the devices. It looks like that, and it is inserted here. It is in the proximal part of the fallopian tubes, and therefore they also prevent the the fertilization in this way. So these are the new devices which are called as Assure. Now name uses of IUCD apart from contraception. That is permanent birth control. Why, Smita? Permanent birth control. What about permanent birth control? IUCDs are nothing permanent. It is reversible. Assure is also not permanent birth control. Don't get misled by the Assure name. It is not permanent birth control. It is a device which is kept in the fallopian tube. So uses of IUCD as contraception and other uses. Dysmenorrhea is one, yes. So one was an interval, that is, it was used as after 6 weeks. Then PA IUCD is written for post-abortal IUCD. PP IUCD is written as endometrial carcinoma. Who tell? Garima Rai. Why will you use it in endometrial carcinoma? You will never use in endometrial carcinoma, Garima. So that is postpartum IUCD is second, and these are all long-acting reversible contraception. We also treatment of endometriosis, yes. Birth spacing, yes. Deepika is writing treatment of endometriosis. Astha is writing birth spacing. But we are asking apart from contraception. That is what our question is. So the answer is emergency contraception up to 5 days, and hormonal IUCDs are used in AUB, in menorrhagia, dysmenorrhea, endometriosis, and adenomyosis. In hormone replacement therapy, when you are giving estrogen, then you can use LNG-IUS as a progesterone supplement in postmenopausal women who are receiving estrogen. That is one. AUB you have read, and AUB you have understood that menorrhagia of any kind, progesterone would help. And another important is that for copper IUCD, in which you remove the copper and make it inert, is when you are dealing with Asherman syndrome. Asherman syndrome is a condition where there are lot of adhesions between the anterior wall and the posterior wall of the uterus, and what you do is adhesiolysis. That is you break those adhesions, and then or if you are using a septal resection, that there has been a malformation in the uterus and you have removed that septa, to keep that anterior and posterior wall apart for some time, you use a copper T, which is it is only as a mechanical method to move the anterior and posterior wall spacing. So that is one of the indication. Apart from interval, you use it as emergency. Then you use for adhesiolysis patients. You use hormonal IUCD for AUB and LNG-IUS for HRT in those taking estrogen. So these are the non-contraceptive benefits. Return of fertility after removal, we discussed that there is no evidence of reduced fertility after removal. 75% conceive in 6 months, 90% conceived in 1 year. A woman is on tamoxifen therapy for breast cancer. What is the contraceptive advice to her? Anyone? LNG-IUS is the choice to combat endometrial hyperplasia caused by estrogen, because tamoxifen is a estrogen, it loads the patient with estrogen, so LNG-IUS is given. Other uses of LNG-IUS we have discussed, that AUB, HRT and women with endometrial hyperplasia, not cancer. Why does PID occur in IUCD users? What is the commonest infective organism which is associated with? Anyone? Commonest organism associated with IUCD PID infection.
Ma'am, actinomyces and chlamydia.
Chlamydia. Yes, actinomyces and chlamydia are the two infections. Actinomyces being gonorrhea. Yes, gonorrhea can occur. Any STDs can occur, in fact. After IUCD, what are the two nylon threads left for? Why do you keep it 3 to 4 centimeter long there?
Ma'am, so that the female can detect that it is on the
place. Okay.
It has not been displaced.
Okay. You or the female patient both can see when you do a per vaginal examination and per speculum examination. If you see the threads, you assure her that it is in place and your copper T or multi-load is in place. That is one. Any other use of that thread? easy removal. That is what Shreya Thakre is telling. So that is right. It is for the detection and removal. So detection is one that she can detect. Either the patient or the doctor can detect, and when you pull out the threads, you can remove it. So in these copper devices of these types, wound around the vertical stem, how much copper is released in the uterus every day? Per day, copper.
50 micrograms.
50 micrograms of copper is released per 24 hours in the uterus. Would you advise IUCD in newly married women? No. Nulliparous is no. Multiparous we discussed. What is the effect of copper on sperm, on ovum, on endometrium and cervix? Be fast. We have to complete it. It is already 11:30. So on sperm, it has got a diminished motility, spermicidal, fertilizing capacitation or are affected. On cervix, cervical mucus becomes hostile and biochemical changes, and lot of enzymatic and leukophilic changes occur in the endometrium, and therefore it hampers with the implantation. In the copper 380A, what does the word A stand for?
Ma'am, it tells copper turning. Ma'am, it tells copper turning on the vertical limbs.
Vertical was already there on the horizontal limbs. Vertical was already there in copper T200 also on the vertical limb. This is vertical.
Ma'am, horizontal.
This is horizontal.
On horizontal. Ma'am, horizontal. Sorry.
Yes. But what is that A stands for? That the copper is in the arms. So A is for arms, and for copper wire which is wound around the horizontal arm also, and it is not in the form of wire, it is in the form of sleeve. That is, it is solid copper. It is solid copper and tubular copper which has been put on the horizontal arm, and that which is put in the vertical arm is in the wire copper. The wire is wound, and therefore this copper which is solid and tubular makes it more stable, and effectiveness and lifespan we saw is increased. So 200 was only in the vertical arm, and the horizontal arm 380A was there. So pure electrolytic copper wire was wound around the 36 millimeter stem. It weighs this much. The copper sleeves on the horizontal arm weighs this much, and this was tied on there is a small ball here. So what is that ball for? You can see that this is the T-shaped, this is the sleeve, this is the wire, these are the two threads, and there is a small ball here. What is that ball for?
Ma'am, this ball prevents perforation of uterus. Ma'am, this ball prevents perforation of uterus.
Of uterus? No, it is for the cervix. It is for the cervix. It is because it lies in the lower end. So uterus perforation, if it would occur, it would be because of the horizontal arm. The lower end comes at the level of internal os. So it is for the cervix, because if it has been left sharp, it would cause a problem at the level of cervix. So what is the advantage of a copper 380 slimline? The slimline has copper sleeve flushed at the ends. In copper 380A, you saw that in the horizontal arms it went somewhere in middle. But the copper slimline has at its end, so that it makes it easier for loading and insertion. So what is copper safe 300? It is the 300 square millimeter of copper on the vertical arm and transverse arm are sharply bent. As we saw in the newer devices, that it is not the T, but the end of the T is slightly bent, so that it holds in the cavity and in the fundus, and it is more flexible. It is smaller than 380A, and multi-load and pregnancy rate are of course affected. Post insertion bleeding pattern of copper and hormonal devices. What will happen with the copper devices and what will happen with the hormonal devices? Copper devices increase the bleeding menstrual blood loss by 55%, whereas the hormonal devices decrease the menstrual blood loss, and hence they have been used in the AUB conditions. Are copper IUCD being metal affected by MRI? We are nearly completing it. Are they being affected by, because they are metal, and are they being affected by MRI? Can a patient who has been a copper IUCD go into the MRI table or go into the MRI room? Would it affect? No. Copper IUCDs are not affected by MRI imaging. although metal, the amount of metal is not enough to, and they need not be removed from the before MRI. Neither patients nor the workers who are working in the MRI unit need to remove or the copper T, though it contains a little amount of metal. So to summarize it, the uterine copper devices is a small device made up of plastic and copper inserted into the uterus. It has two threads which hang through the cervix in the upper part of the vagina. Prevents implantation is the main part. Effects immediately, the immediate, and it is reversible, long acting, and they do not cause abortion, so it is not an abortifacients. The postpartum interval and post PPIUCD and PIUCD we discussed, and therefore they lead to may lead to the misconceptions are that it would lead to pelvic infections or infertility. It is not so. If the pelvic infection is already there, then it can increase the chance of infection, but it doesn't cause infection or infertility. Getting an IUCD is all pain and no gain. It is wrong. It is a myth. That the threads can be felt by the partner during sexual intercourse is a myth. Misconception. It perforates the uterus and enters the abdomen. That is a usual saying by the patients. It is very rare. Expulsion is more common. It is only common with PPIUCD. PPIUCD cause cancer. Cancer is a myth, and PPIUCD alters the breast composition is also a myth. So expulsion and perforation is more if you don't follow the guidelines. That is, if you insert after 48 hours or within 6 weeks. If you are inserting within 10 minutes up to 48 hours or after 6 weeks, that is extended postpartum, then the chances of these are very less, and these are only misconceptions. So whether I can play it for you, I don't know. Let me try. This is available on the YouTube. You can always manage to see it. It is just that I wanted to show you the PPIUCD. This is available on YouTube, and just have a watch. The insertion of PPIUCD is, I can read it out for you, is after childbirth. Is simple, you know it, and just after the removal of the placenta it is used. This is hardly 10 minutes. The advantage is at the time of insertion you have to have a correct counseling, and correct consent has to be taken. Of course, it has an advantage that the second visit is avoided, and before she is discharged from the facility you can insert it. So this is how you hold it. It has to be done up to 48 hours after delivery, not after that. After 48 hours, these guidelines, FIGO guidelines, still say 4 weeks, but we have extended it to 6 weeks. That is, you have to remember 6 weeks. Not visible, okay. Video not visible, okay, I'll ask someone. Okay, it is not visible. I'll just forward it to you. Let me ask them if they can show it to you, and if not, then we will end the lecture, and just I've asked the IT persons to come. Although I will give you the link, and it would be visible on YouTube, and those are the 2 authentic videos which you should watch. ये वीडियो नहीं दिख रहे हैं उनको, तो शुरू से चलो। एक और है इसके साथ।
Post-placental IUD insertion, or simply as PPIUD insertion. The advantage of IUD insertion at this time is that it is unusual when the healthcare professional is already attending to the woman. Since the IUD insertion takes only a minute or two, it is a convenient opportunity to save time for both of them, whilst also avoiding the need to arrange a second, later visit to the clinic. Remember that active management of the third stage of labor should be carried out as normal before insertion. PPIUD insertion can also be undertaken up to 48 hours after delivery. However, after 48 hours is passed, postpartum IUD insertion should be avoided for 4 weeks or longer postpartum. You should check that the woman has been cancelled and given consent for a PPIUD insertion. Ensure that there are no delivery-related contraindications to PPIUD insertion. These contraindications include any rupture of membranes lasting for more than 18 hours, any signs of choriomyelitis, any signs of ongoing PPH. Set out the sterile instruments required for PPIUD insertion. Long placental forceps and sponge holding forceps, often called sponge holders. Sometimes ring forceps are used instead of sponge holders. You should also have the IUD and a good light source available. Wash your hands and put on clean gloves. Inspect the perineum, labia, and vaginal walls for lacerations. If these are not bleeding heavily, repair them after IUD insertion. Gently insert the seam speculum into the posterior vagina and depress in order to visualize the cervix. Clean the cervix and vagina with antiseptic. Gently grasp the anterior cervix with sponge holders, close to the first tooth only, and let go of the handles. Open the bottom of the IUD packet and firstly remove the long plastic applicator and insert it from the packet, leaving only the IUD inside. Then, using the long placental forceps, grasp the right hand arm and stem of the IUD and remove it from the packet. Apply gentle traction on the anterior lip of the cervix using sponge holders in your left hand to lift the anterior lip up. Using the long placental forceps in your right hand, pass the IUD into the lower uterine segment, taking care, where possible, not to touch the vaginal wall to the IUD. Keep the placental forceps closed so as not to drop the IUD into the lower part of the uterus. Once the IUD has passed through the cervix, remove the sponge holders from the anterior lip of the cervix. Move your left hand to the midline of the abdomen, feeling the uterine fundus through a clean abdominal towel placed on the anterior abdominal wall. Ensure that the base of your hand is over the lower uterine segment. There is a sharp angle between the axes, or direction, of the vagina and the uterine cavity. The uterus needs to be elevated in the abdomen and pushed upwards to straighten out this angle. If this is not done, you may think that you feel the IUD is against the fundus, but actually it is only against the back wall of the lower uterine segment. It is very important to place the IUD against the fundus in order to minimize the chances of expulsion. While maintaining pressure in order to elevate the uterus upwards in the abdomen, move the long placental forceps towards the umbilicus until it reaches the uterine fundus, when you will feel a slight resistance. This resistance can also be felt by the top of your left hand, which is placed over the abdomen and positioned at the top of the uterine fundus. When the placental forceps is at the uterine fundus, its handle will be close to or at the patient's perineum. Remember to keep the placental forceps closed so as not to drop the IUD in the mid part of the uterus. Open the long placental forceps and move them towards the right-hand side wall of the uterine fundus. Slowly remove the placental forceps, keeping them open so as to avoid them catching the threads of the IUD and inadvertently pulling it out of position. At the same time, keep stabilizing the angle of the uterus with your left hand through the abdominal wall until the placental forceps have been completely removed. Check the cervix to make sure there's no bleeding and that the IUD cannot be seen near the cervix. Remove all the instruments and place in 0.5% chlorine solution so that they are completely submerged. Dispose of waste appropriately. Remove gloves and wash hands. Tell the woman that you have finished fitting the IUD.
Intrauterine contraception. Intrauterine contraception, known as the coil, is a popular form of long-acting, reversible contraception. It's chosen more and more by women of any age, whether or not they've been pregnant before. It's over 99% effective, more effective than condoms, or even the pill. It doesn't get in the way of sex, unlike condoms. Once fitted, you can forget about contraception for 3, 5, or 10 years. Once removed, your fertility will return to whatever is normal for you within days. Importantly, IUD or IUS devices do not protect you against sexually transmitted infections. We recommend using condoms until both you and your partner have had an STI screen. There are two types: the hormonal intrauterine system, or IUS, and the copper intrauterine device, or IUD. Both are small and flexible, with two threads at one end. The hormonal IUS works by releasing a tiny amount of a hormone called progesterone, much less than the pill releases. The progesterone thins the lining of the womb, which prevents a pregnancy from settling there. It also thickens the mucus in the cervix, stopping sperm getting in. The hormonal IUS takes 7 days to be effective and lasts up to 5 years, or longer if you're over 45. The copper IUD contains no hormones. The copper kills sperm and eggs, which prevents fertilization, and it stops a pregnancy implanting if fertilization has already happened. It's effective as soon as it's been fitted, and it lasts 5 or 10 years. It can also be used for emergency contraception. Before the procedure, both types can be fitted at any point in your cycle, provided there's no chance you could be pregnant. We ask that you don't have unprotected sex for at least 3 weeks before fitting. This includes sex when your method of contraception has passed its expiry date, or using withdrawal or natural methods of contraception. Women with irregular bleeding may require extra tests. If this is the case, speak to your GP first. It's a good idea to have a light meal and to take your usual pain relief to reduce possible discomfort an hour or two before the procedure. How is the procedure done? The appointment lasts about 30 minutes, with the device fitting usually only taking 5 to 10 minutes. You'll meet the clinician fitting your device. An assistant will also be there to support and reassure you. We'll ask about your medical history, do a pregnancy test, an STI test if needed, and answer any questions. Then we'll carry out an internal vaginal examination to check the entrance to the womb or cervix before fitting your chosen device. The procedure can be uncomfortable, but half of women experience little or no pain. We'll provide extra pain relief if you need it. After the procedure, most women feel well enough to leave the clinic straight away and can travel home by bus, taxi or car. You may like to bring someone with you to take you home. We'll explain how to check the threads that show the device is in the correct position. You will need to check this once a month, and we'll give you a card with the expiry date written on it. Keep this safe. We'll give you an information sheet to remind you about post-fit advice and how to check for problems. Most women don't need a follow-up appointment, but you must come back if you're concerned about anything. For example, lost threads or pain. The device can be removed at any time. This process is much easier than having it fitted. If you want it removed and still don't wish to be pregnant, you must use condoms or avoid sex for 7 days before removal. Side effects. Most women have some period-like discomfort afterwards, but this usually settles after a few hours. You can use your usual pain relief. In the first 3 to 6 months, the hormonal IUS can result in lighter, unpredictable bleeds known as spotting. This usually settles into infrequent lighter bleeds or no periods. If spotting persists, we might suggest you also take the contraceptive pill for a while. Some women notice hormonal side effects in the first few months, such as headaches or spotty skin, breast tenderness or weight gain. But as the womb lining thins, less hormone is absorbed, so these symptoms often settle. Conversely, the copper IUD can cause heavier periods, but this may improve with time. Less commonly, there can be painless ovarian cysts, which often disappear within months. Risks. Most women have no problems. Occasionally, the device can be pushed out of the womb. This is most common in the first year of having the device. There's a small risk of infection. This is most common in the first 3 weeks, after which the risk becomes much lower. Very rarely, the device can go through the wall of the womb during insertion. If this is recognised at the time, the device will be removed. Otherwise, it will have to be removed later with keyhole surgery. In the extremely unlikely event that you fall pregnant with the device in place, there's a slightly high risk of a pregnancy outside the womb, an ectopic pregnancy. If you think you've become pregnant with the device in, you should seek medical help urgently. Questions or concerns?
बंद करो.